Hi, I'm Saida Garrett, co-writer of Michael Jackson's Man in the Mirror, and you're listening to Rainbow Country with Mr. Mark Tara.
The views and opinions expressed on the following program are those of the persons appearing on the program.
Today on Rainbow Country, the 2016 award-winning documentary, Strike a Pose, that reunites the male dancers from Madonna's Blond Ambition tour. I'm joined by co-director HOUR Zwan and dancer and choreographer Kevin Stay. That and more in episode 393, so stay tuned for Gay Talk Radio right here on Rainbow Country.
Hello, my name is Conchita.
And I'm Barbecue.
And my name is Hardcora. And we are the Beat Girls.
You're listening to
Rainbow Country with Mark Tara.
Well, hello and welcome to a brand new journey through Rainbow Country. As I like to call it, a little gay radio show working to give voice to the LGBT community and beyond. And as always, I am your tour guide through Rainbow Country. I'm producer and host, Mark Tara. By the way, Rainbow Country originates from CIUT FM in Toronto and now proudly in syndication on 12 outlets across Canada, from coast to coast to coast. The Yukon, British Columbia, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, the east coast of Canada in Newfoundland, Ontario, even down to Buffalo, New York, and online. Well, thanks to you tuning in, streaming, downloading, but ultimately listening. Together we continue to build Rainbow Country into a nationally syndicated gay radio show, a #1 LGBT podcast on Podomatic.com's Gay and Lesbian chart, as well as being recognized as Canada's #1 LGBT podcast on Feedspot.com. So today, my 2021 interview for Strike a Pose. 25 years after Madonna's Blond Ambition tour comes the story of her backup male dancers and their experiences with fame and its consequences. I'm joined by the film's co-director, HOUR Zwan, and dancer and choreographer Kevin Stay. And together we'll talk about the power behind this documentary, 25 years in the making. Plus in hour 2, music from LGBT artists, independent artists, voices that we've come to know and love in classic disco, classic 80s, classic house. And on this episode, I'm featuring some classic 80s, some queer indie, and more. All that lies ahead as we start Journey 393 through Rainbow Country, and our first stop, the Rainbow Country Bookstore. Today, award-winning writer Paige Maylott reads from her memoir, My Body is Distant, a book that tells the author's transgender journey to self-realization.
Memory is a slippery and selective thing. To provide an example, think back to your earliest memory. One of mine was a hot summer day in 1979. I would have been 4 years old and my sister Lana only 2. The memory begins with us running barefoot across cool, shaded grass behind the turn-of-the-century schoolhouse our father skillfully converted into our childhood home. As I ran and Lana chased after me, grasshoppers sprang from the grass, cicadas screeched in the trees, and the neighbors' cows grazed in fields on the other side of the electrified fences which surrounded our property. Already, I have fabricated details to draw you into my story. While I know there were often cows in the fields which surrounded our house, and that cicadas often screeched in the trees, I don't remember how warm it really was. And I can't recall whether cicadas were out or if there were cows nearby that day. I have only included these pseudo-facts to pave the way to a moment that stuck with and still shapes who I am some 40-something years later. I remember we found ourselves in the sun-warmed, wood-scented back shed, where we discovered my father's tackle box. We pried open squeaky metal clasps, and inside we found the most incredible fishing lures. To our inexperienced eyes, they looked uncannily like actual fish, with shining scales drawn with metallic paints, and gleaming bright eyes. Some were hinged in the middle to mimic realistic swimming, I assume. Lana grabbed as many fish as she could, somehow avoiding hooking herself. She looked up at me, her body vibrating with excitement as she said, "Let's see them swim." I agreed and gathered the rest. We ran out of the shed and across the lawn holding handfuls of jingling fish. I followed Lana to a deep circular pond ringed with flagstones, which my father had dug in the middle of our yard. Lana wasted no time as she climbed the stones and threw her handfuls into the water. When they struck the surface, years of dust splashed away, and the lures came to life. The tiny fishes twisted and flipped just below the surface. Their chromatic scales flashed in a dizzying rainbow of colors before they sank. Each twinkled in the sunlight one last time, as if giving thanks, before they disappeared into the murky depths of the pond. "Did you see that?" Lana asked. "Throw yours." I recognized the potential consequences of tossing away my father's prized fishing lures, but I couldn't help myself. I wanted to see those colors. I needed to see if they truly could come to life again. I tossed mine, alone and in twos, at Lana's impatient urgings. We watched with amazement as they rolled and flashed in the murky water as they sank, leaving us with vivid memories and regret. For me, memory is a lot like my fish story. I only seem to remember moments which particularly delight or trouble me, and sometimes the ones that flash brightest are the ones that do both. I like to think my brightest memories are also the ones which have taught me valuable lessons, like how throwing away antique heirloom fishing lures can make your father cry. This memoir is, therefore, imperfect. It will contain details as true as I can remember them, and I'm certain some recollections will be incorrect or incomplete. All I can promise is that the memories in these pages are, to the best of my knowledge, influential moments of my life which have shaped me into the woman I am today. I hope you graciously accept that possibility as I recall these stories with you. By reading them, you can cause these memories to flash and sparkle once more. While not every recollection in this memoir shines, I believe it is important to include the difficult parts and the ones that beacon on regrettable decisions. Because if we don't record these multicolored memories as accurately as possible, they might sink into the darkness and be lost forever. 2010. Another 11 years later, in an abandoned amusement park. Emerging from a cloud of rose-scented mist, Callie's face is lit electric pink as we pass a buzzing neon heart on the tunnel's rocky wall. We float together in a giant rubber duck that pulls us along a submerged track toward an expanding arch of light. As we pass through the cave's mouth, sunlight gleams off the duck's droplet-sprinkled plastic wings, and the sequined lining of my bridal gown reflects shimmering rainbows across the water's surface. Callie caresses my ears. "What did you think?" "Best honeymoon ever," I say. "We're only getting started." A sly smirk hints at the corner of Callie's mouth as he pulls me close. I rest my cheek against his suit-covered chest, allowing myself to melt into the relaxing vibration of his affectionate purring. being here, having him holding me, sharing this moment together in an actual tunnel of love with my husband has made all the fuss of the past 2 weeks of wedding mayhem worthwhile. This does truly feel perfect, even though I know that none of this is real. Not in the way most people value realness. I know this amusement park we're in, this plastic duck boat, and even our avatars are just lines of code stored on a softly humming server somewhere. Despite that, I feel an authentic bond with Callie, which is no less valid than the intimacy and trust that accompanies sharing your bed and life with someone in the real world. In loving relationships, we seek reassurances that our partner cares for us. Grand romantic gestures may be beautiful and sweep you off your feet, but they're easily staged. We communicate true love through a multitude of selfless moments. Love appears as an unprompted cup of tea, just the way you like it on a tough day. Or when you fawn over a beautiful sweater and a week later, it appears on the dining room table, even when it's not your birthday. Genuine gestures of love can even appear in an act as simple as being cuddled as the little spoon while you drift off to sleep. Despite what you might think, these gestures can mean more online. Callie's wedding suit is an excellent example. If he and I married in real life, he might buy or rent a suit. A tailor then measures and makes alterations, but all Callie has done is point and pay and pick it up when he's ready. Here, Callie inevitably tried on multiple suits from multiple online vendors, still spent real money to buy it, but then he also sank hours in an editor, carefully tweaking the suit's proportions to accommodate his unique furry body. It took me 3 days to find and fit a bridal dress that showed my tail and then edit a veil so that it didn't cut off my ears. Callie proposed with an emerald ring. While he likely didn't spend too much to buy it, he took the time to learn I preferred emeralds to diamonds. Communication and attention to detail mattered just as much here. He also scouted this abandoned amusement park for us to be alone. Thoughtful kindnesses like these are more than I've ever experienced in a real-life relationship. In some ways, online relationships better illustrate commitment and desire. In real life, you and I might walk together. Your hand might bump mine, and we might like the feeling of accidental touch enough to hold hands. It could be sweet, but there's a casualness to this act that cannot occur online. In virtual worlds, we might similarly walk together, but you would intentionally position your character closer to mine, target me, and initiate a command like, /hold hands with Lydia. While stepping out of a romantic moment to type may sound detached, if my online partner values the time required to specifically write an affectionate gesture just because they want to build a connection, doesn't that add something? Describing a character's intention is not only precise and deliberate, but every descriptive pose my partner writes is only for me, for us, to create our memorable moment. Whether we're holding hands or fighting or fucking, we craft line after line of descriptive prose, a conscious, poetic rededication to the value of our relationship. So, yes, I know that our relationship, our marriage, and this moment are not real in the way society might define it, but for a lonely and sick trans woman, they are everything. Besides, don't scientists say reality as we understand it might be lines of code anyway?
When I return, strike a pose.
Hi, I'm Garrett Conley, author of Boy Erased, a memoir. You're listening to Rainbow Country with Mark Tara.
I had a message on my answering machine. Hi, I'm trying to reach Carlton. This is Madonna. And I was like, what the fuck? That tour was about freedom. Freedom as a human being, freedom in regards to speak the truth.
Still vaguely fit into it.
It was a wild, high-velocity family.
Each one of us would have taken a bullet for each one of us.
The sort of daring progressive message was that you can be gay and human.
I want to be like those guys, be that sort of free and open.
I saw two men kiss for the first time.
Like, you know.
Do we care what people think of us? No!
Bring it back down. What's your secret?
Faking that you're strong, faking that you are confident. Faking. Almost all of it.
With AIDS coming out and HIV, everyone got really scared. It was terrifying. It was terrifying enough to scare people into silence.
There was a whole other backstage, that you didn't get to see, that none of us were ready to talk about.
And it's hard because this is the first time, so...
And real slow.
Be proud. Be proud, whatever it is. Because everyone is someone.
Rare, hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I am well. I'm going to get you to say your full name because I'm going to butcher it. So please go ahead.
Don't worry about butchering. And my name is Rijer Zwaan from Amsterdam, the Netherlands.
Well said. I could not have said that any better than you. And Kevin, is it Steya?
Stay.
Kevin Stay.
Kevin Stay.
Hello, how are you?
I am good. But I too have been trying to get Rijer's name correctly all these years.
And you guys have known each other for a while now.
We do, yeah. No, and Rijer is just totally fine, so don't worry.
Okay, thank you for that. First of all, thank you both for being here to have your voices, your stories be heard by the LGBT community and beyond. Thank you so much for that, especially when it comes to 2016's Strike a Pose, a documentary that follows the 7 male dancers from Madonna's Blond Ambition tour, shot 25 years later. It's an award-winning documentary that uncovers the truth about life during and after the glitter fades. Rijer, yourself and Esther Gould, the two of you are the directors of Strike a Pose. First of all, who thought about this idea of this documentary 25 years after the fact? Talk to me about how this came to be.
Yeah, sure. I think it was me. I'm pretty sure it was me who came up with the idea because I saw Truth or Dare at a very early age. I think I was 11 years old in cinemas in Amsterdam, where I'm from. And all these years later, I talked to Esther about what that film had meant to me, because it was such an inspiring and fun thing to see, but also that I had this film idea about where these exceptional men that I got to know in Truth or Dare, where they were at now after all that they have had meant with being a part of Truth or Dare. And I had already looked up like the first things that I could find just on Google. And I found that Gabriel had passed away and had died of AIDS. And so there were all these things that I wanted to know more about. And maybe more important, I found that many people were still talking about and thinking about the 7 dancers from the Blond Ambition tour and Truth or Dare. And that got us the idea to actually go and look for them and find out where they are, how they are, and what had happened since.
And Kevin, for yourself, when you first heard about this proposal, when this idea first came to you, what did you think?
My initial response was a bit nervous because sort of my experience with the American press had always been one of sort of sensationalism and trying to get dirt on Madonna. And certainly my initial reaction was like, well, is this going to be just all about her and we're dishing on her, or it's all focused on her? But after meeting them, I kind of immediately got that their sensibilities were so much more about our humanity and us and our impact on them, and not just about her. So I had slight reservations, but I never let that stop me. So I immediately was like, yes, let's do it.
And thank the Lord for that. So Louise, Oliver, Salim, Jose, Carlton, and Ray, or you mentioned Gabriel, who passed away in 1995. Kevin, after the tour, the Blonde Ambition tour, after the documentary Truth or Dare, did you guys stay close at all?
Well, Gabriel and I were already best friends for a long time. So, a long time in those years, for me, that was a long time, a couple of years. Jose, Luis, and Salim went back to New York. And Jose had made it very clear that there was no interest in continuing a relationship or friendship. So I didn't really reach out much after that. So we didn't see each other that entire period. Luis, however, from the entire period between Truth or Dare and Strike a Pose, Luis, however, moved to Los Angeles. And of course, when he moved to Los Angeles, then we reconnected. And also with Carlton, many years later, I reconnected because in the beginning, I did not like Carlton on the tour. It wasn't until many years later that I adore him, and now he's like my favorite person in the world. That's how we grow. So we didn't stay in close contact. Oliver and I stayed in contact because we were working on jobs together. A little bit less when he moved to Vegas.
So you just mentioned, Kevin, that you didn't like Carlton. Why didn't you like Carlton during the Blonde Ambition tour?
He was so confusing to me, but I think he was also confusing to himself. I think he was being confusing on purpose. He was, he was sort of smoke and mirrors around, liking guys or girls and bi and the HIV and all that. So I think he was kind of distracting and with himself, and so it kind of showed out to me that way as well. And it was confronting to me because he also did things to kind of provoke. Before his show, he actually grabbed me while we were getting ready to get on stage, literally just seconds before we went on stage, grabbed me and just smashed his face against me and started kissing me. Right. I wasn't even out or gay or even, I was questioning at the moment. It was just so bizarre to have this guy grab me and start kissing me in front of the entire arena of people. It was, and especially right before a show. So it's not that act, solidified everything, but there was just a lot of what are you doing? What are you provoking? Why are you, trying to trigger me? And now, he's absolutely found himself, his soul, his light, who he is. He knows who he is. He knows what he wants. And I think that clarity is also very attractive to me. So now in his clarity, I find friendship and light as well. And I adore him for the journey that he's been on and what he's, the man he's become.
Now you can see him for who he is.
Absolutely. Again, before I was a lot of smoke and mirrors, but same with me. So,
and I understand that during the tour, the Blonde Ambition tour, Carlton was HIV positive, but he didn't tell anyone.
Yeah, he didn't tell anybody. But then it wasn't even a conversation that came up, really. And even Gabriel, who I was so close with, I asked him point blank, because his boyfriend had died of it. And I was like, is he dying of AIDS? And he's like, no, they don't know what it is. It's some sort of wasting disease. And I was like, wow, that's crazy. Who knows? I didn't know what kind of things were out there. And then I asked him specifically, are you okay? Do you have AIDS? And he was like, no, I'm anemic. And something. I was like, oh, okay. And I just, bought it at face value. It was just for some, obviously, if I was naive enough to not even see everything as clearly as it was, then I think he just felt I wouldn't be ready for it, you know? So he spared me that. But it was just not the sort of thing that you talked about a lot, because I think a lot of guys feared losing their friends, their family, their work, even word of mouth spreading around that you know, that someone's sick or ailing. There was so much stigma around it. It was stifling.
Mm-hmm. Kevin, let's stick with yourself, because I believe it was yourself and Oliver, the two of you ended up suing Madonna over a clause in your contract, a movie clause. Talk to me about what happened and why the two of you chose to do this.
Well, initially it was actually Gabriel that started it, because he revealed things during the shooting that he didn't want revealed to the public. Part of which I assume was that he was HIV positive and gay and all of that, all, you know, part and parcel. And because I saw him come out of his interview just shaking and so upset. And Alec told him, anything you don't want to be in the movie won't be in the movie.
The Truth or Dare documentary.
Yes, and Truth or Dare. And so when we saw the screening, he asked her point blank, can you take out that kissing scene between him and Celine? Because I'm not comfortable with that. Mm-hmm. And she said, no, the picture's already locked. And he's like, but you told me that I could have, you know, anything I didn't want in there wouldn't be in there. Right. And so in the background, here I am, you know, with my agent talking about, like, are we getting paid for this? Are we getting paid for this movie? Because in our contract was a clause with a specific amount already, like, negotiated, already printed out in print. And he was also going through the same agent. Come to meet Madonna when I'm at a movie screening for Paris is Burning. And I had to scoot by her to get to my seat. And I was like, hi, how are you doing? I love you. What's going on? And she's like, fuck you. You're on my fucking shit list. Fuck off. And I was like, what? What? What are you talking about? I'm like, I'm literally just reaching out to you, like, because you're contractually, you owe me money. Like, I didn't say that. And I wish I had. Right. But I was shaking. I was like, I don't know why she's so pissed off. Because I had sent her a letter saying, I don't know why your lawyers aren't responding. I love you. I want to see you again. Like, why aren't they talking about this? Come to find out, 2 days later, I go to my agency. There's Gabriel and Oliver. Somehow, like, that was such a strange moment. Like, why I showed up and they're already there. And they were suing her on Monday, like 2 days later. And I was like, well, she thinks I'm the ringleader in this. And obviously she owes me money. I guess I'm in. I think she thought I had started the whole thing because it was my agent.
Right.
Also, Gabriel and Oliver's agent. And we all had the same clause in our contract. Mm-hmm. So with the other guys, I'm not sure that they did. So I jumped on because I had to ask myself, what would she do? She would stand up for herself. She would fight for what's right. She would fight for her rights and what's owed to her. And so that was the sort of gauge by which I chose to participate. And also, I wanted to make a stand for the dance community because I'd seen, like, so many other things go by where people were getting taken advantage of and products were being turned into commercials and we weren't getting paid. And it was just someone had to take a stand. And I guess that would have been us at that point.
Bottom line, did everything get settled?
It did. I'm not sure that it got settled the way it should have necessarily. Okay. We didn't ask for anything else but what was in our contract. Right. Gabriel got his, part with, being forcibly outed, which maybe, I don't know, it's the only forcibly outed lawsuit in the world. I don't know. But, looking back, it should have been our agents to sue, not us, because that's their job. And they wanted to protect their relationship. And we sacrificed our relationship on behalf of dancers' rights when it really should have been, our agency, not us. So that's that part I regret that I didn't stand up to the agency, but I was 21. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was a long time ago and we were very young, just doing our best,
Currently, do you still have a relationship with Madonna at all?
No. I mean, I'd love one. I'd love to see her as an adult and see me as an adult. I mean, she's an adult then, but she's a new person. She's we both are. If she's changed as much as I've changed, we're different people. I would love to see her as the family woman that she is with her kids, because I know how much she wanted that. And maybe I'm a stick in the mud to her. I don't know, but I would love to reconnect, at least just to I see her as family, and always will. And I know, I hope that for her it's water under the bridge, and she sees again that I don't speak poorly of her, and I never have. And exactly what I said in the letter is exactly what I mean.
Yeah.
That I love you and I'd love to see you again.
Well, from your lips to God's ears. That's all I'll say. So Rhea, earlier you mentioned you saw the Truth or Dare documentary around 11. Why did you personally want to do Strike a Pose? What was it that you wanted the audience to know when they see this film, Strike a Pose?
Well, it all started with a fascination, both for me and co-director Esther Gould, that we were just fascinated and inspired by these guys who showed themselves in a way that wasn't, well, normal or being done, especially not back in 1991. And not only about being gay, but just these bold characters and so fun-loving. And this whole documentary, of course, was very bold and outrageous in a way. And I think it made a huge impression because I was so young as well, but I wasn't the only one that had that feeling about Truth or Dare and about the 7 dancers. And that got us into thinking, like, what if we find them and their stories? And as soon as we talked to them and reached out, we were so blown away each time by their big characters, they're outspoken, but also about some sort of paradox between the message of express yourself that was central for Truth or Dare and the Blonde Ambition tour. And the fact that even for these guys, these paragons of pride, it's still hard to be yourself, to show yourself, to overcome shame. And there, of course, there's the 3 dancers who knew they were HIV positive while on tour, for Carlton, Salim, and Gabriel. And that big secret that really held them down. And at the same time, it was an escape not to have to talk about it on tour and just to celebrate that tour by itself. But that paradox of being an example for so many people in the world who saw for a lot of people around the world, this was the first gay kiss between Salim and Gabriel that they saw, and it was an inspirational kiss, I think, for lots of people, and the openness, and at the same time the backstory, if you can say it that way, of these guys themselves, and 25 years later, looking back at what happened to them and how hard it has been to open up, like it is for all of us. That was basically the story we wanted to tell, and that, well, I can say resonated with a lot of people because so many people have responded to that since the premiere 5 years ago.
And Rhea, this is your first film?
It was my first film, yes, together with Esther, who's an experienced filmmaker. So we were, I was lucky to be able to work together with her.
So how did you get into filmmaking in the first place? Since 2016 is your first film.
Yeah, so I've been a television journalist for quite a long time. So I have been making lots of reports, shorter and longer, but with a very journalistic approach. And this film idea had been with me for a long time as well. So it really only started when I talked about it to Esther, who is a filmmaker, and together we started working on it. And like I said, talking to the guys gave us the idea and the confidence that this really was a cinematic experience that we should try to go after. And we worked hard on it for a couple of years, and we're very lucky with meeting all these beautiful men, and we're able to make the film as it turned out to be Strike a Pose.
Was there, in the initial stages, was there any talk of reaching out to Madonna to have her be part of this project?
Our idea was really to make a film about the 7 dancers.
Okay.
So it never got into our head to make a film that was also about Madonna. Because it would have been a completely different film, and of course, the spotlight would be moving almost automatically towards her and her story. And there has been a film about Madonna, more than one, and we really thought that the story of the dancers was so interesting and so worth telling. So that was clear to us. On the other hand, we did reach out at the very end of filming back in 2015 because we could imagine that there would be some kind of reunion moment or some kind of meeting of the dancers and Madonna, but it was never really important to us because we wanted to make the film about the dancers anyway, and Madonna never responded to that request, which is also fine. But so no, it wasn't a film about Madonna from the very beginning.
Do you know if she's seen the film, the documentary Strike a Pose?
Yeah, but that's basically all we know. So we know that Madonna has seen it because people have mentioned that through others. And so we know that she's aware of the film and that she has seen it, but she has never reacted to it as such. So we don't know any more than that. But for some reason, I believe that she has dear feelings for these beautiful men and their stories, because how can you not?
And on that note, we'll return after this Rainbow Country update.
Hi, I'm Keegan Hurst, former professional rugby player, coach, raving homosexual, and you're listening to Rainbow Country with Mark Tara.
Hello, Canada. I'm Canadian jazz vocalist Audie Braun. If you're in the Toronto area on February 27th, I've got a great show coming up at the Jazz Bistro. To help celebrate the release of my new CD, Night and Day, the Cole Porter Songbook, I'll perform Cole Porter's music and also pay tribute to two of Porter's contemporaries, Noel Coward and Kurt Weill. Backed by a stellar combo, Don Breithaupt piano, Russ Boswell bass, Mark Kelso drums, and William Sperande trumpet, let this music sweep you off your feet. The Jazz Bistro fills up very quickly, so reserve your table now by calling 416-363-5299.
But the poets pipe of love in the childish way. I know every type of love better far than they.
Hi, my name is Joanne Vanicola, and I'm an actor and a writer, and I was first on Rainbow Country with Mark Tara on discussing the massacre at Pulse Club in Orlando. I realized how important it was for our community to have a radio station, specifically for our issues, to talk about people in the LGBTQ community and to provide an outlet for our stories, to discuss our politics, culture, and give voice to the issues that matter to us, and of course our artists and the things that we do globally, and talk about culture. And without people like Mark Tara providing a space for this with a radio show like this, then we wouldn't have that voice. So support, tune in. Thank you.
Hi there, I'm Bennett Singer, a documentary filmmaker and the co-director of the new film Cured. You are listening to Rainbow Country with Mark Tara.
Kevin, how did you get into dance in the first place?
I did gymnastics when I was young, and when I was going to school in Singapore, my gymnastics coach there loved dance, and so he kind of created a melange show of dance and gymnastics and invited me to participate, and I did. From there, people kept asking me to sort of do these shows dancing, but I had never, taken a single class. And when I got to Los Angeles to USC, I decided to kind of find out what what is real dance? And so I started taking classes. It was fun. I had a great time. One of the teachers had another studio. He gave me like a scholarship to go to his studio to dance. And since I wasn't really doing anything else, I was like, well, I'll go and take advantage of the scholarship and go dance and, learn some fun, sexy steps. And then I ran out of money and I heard about an agent auditioning for new clients. And I went because I had no money. And I was like, well, if I could earn some money, it'd be great. Instead of working at Taco Bell, which I did for 3 days. I went, she signed me, sent me an audition the next day. And I got the job, and that was Debbie Gibson's Electric Youth.
Oh, wow.
And nice. I earned all this money, and I was like, all this money, whatever. For me, it was like, oh my God, it was a windfall. I've been living like a whole year on that same amount of money. It was not that much. And I was like, this is really, I'm good at this and it earns money. I'm not doing anything right now. I took a year off from school. Let me go pursue this. And it was a really, really rough summer of no work. But then in the fall, after working Taco Bell for 3 days, I came home and I got 7 of the jobs that I had auditioned for, like in the past, like 3-4 weeks before that. I got all of them in the same day. And my answering machine kept going off like, you got this job, and then you got that job, and you got this job. And I literally never went back to Taco Bell. I had my uniform in my closet. I never even went back to get my paycheck, nothing. I was like, I'm done. I'm doing this. And then I never looked back. People kept hiring me.
How did you end up dancing in Madonna's Blonde Ambition tour? Because my understanding is you weren't originally cast, but then you ended up being in it and being the dance captain. How did that happen?
Well, I snuck on stage one day and they kept me. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I was hired as associate choreographer for Carol Armitage, and then she was quickly replaced with Vincent Patterson. And so I thought I'd lost my gig. But I had worked with Vincent the year before on a Pepsi commercial, and he had actually pointed me out in an audition and made a point of saying, oh, you're really great. You're not right for this job, but you're really great. And so we had a bit of a history with me, and kept me on. And by the time we got to the Vogue video, which is like a week into rehearsals, I was just blending better with the dancers, better than this other, also named Kevin, dancer from New York, and I can't remember his last name, who was just a little more reserved and quiet, and didn't really have a sort of as big or unique personality, I suppose, as all of us kind of are very strong individuals. And by the time we got to the video, she had already made up her mind. And on the set of the video, between takes, in her hair and makeup up, getting her, rollers in her hair, she offered me the tour as a dancer and dance captain, as well as associate choreographer. And you said? And I said, I'll have to get back to you.
Did you really?
I did. I really did. Because I wanted to talk, because she even offered me the money, and I was like, well, I'm not going to be talking about money with you. That's a conversation for my agent. And then I said, I also have 2 or 3 other jobs that I'm already contracted to do. And we already filmed part of it. So I have to get out of those things delicately, because I want to protect my relationships. And I did. I actually brought the entire cast in for rehearsal and flew the one dancer that Marguerite Derricks wanted, Travis Payne, who's also a famous choreographer now, from Atlanta to Los Angeles, and taught him my steps with all the people, with all the rest of the cast. I paid for everybody just to get out of that job gracefully.
Wow. Well done. Well done.
But I'm glad I did it. No regrets.
Yes. I will say, Kevin, your fellow dancers, Madonna during the Blonde Ambition tour and Truth or Dare, you guys brought Vogue from the ballroom scene in New York City to a world stage. And Kevin, that is part of your legacy. What are your thoughts on being part of that legacy, being instrumental in bringing Vogue to the world, essentially? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I feel like a bridge more than the ambassador, because I had never even heard of Vogue when I started working on the tour. I absorbed it very quickly, obviously, because I loved it. I wanted to like know what it was. I was, hungry for every style I could think of. I was constantly asking Jose and Lewis, I was like, is this voguing? Is this voguing? Is this voguing? How about now? If I put my leg here, is that voguing? like, what's the vocabulary here? So I always feel, I feel like, I've never been a part of a house, even though, I lean to Ninja because Willie, a dear friend. But I'm grateful and honored to be a part of that legacy. I feel Vogue is such a truly LGBTQ plus dance form and expression. And it is such a declaration of power and strength and identity and celebration of self and others from our own community. Again, extremely honored and humbled to be a part of that history, because I feel like it's so incredibly important as an art form because it is so uniquely ours. But again, it comes from New York primarily. Its origins are all there. So I never want to take credit for any kind of creation of it, but just I feel like I respond better to the idea of being a bridge and sharing that with maybe the West Coast. While they were all on the East Coast, I got to continue bringing that a bit to the West Coast.
Yeah, well said. Rayer, when audiences see Strike a Pose, what would you like your audiences to come away with after seeing this powerful documentary?
Well, I always hope that people take away from it that there's a way out, whatever you're in, whatever mess or trouble or horrible feelings you're in, there's a way out. It's also a story about survival. I think it's a story about being proud of who you are and overcoming shame. I guess it's a story that connects to many people, and not only Madonna's dancers from 1990 or their stories, or people who are HIV positive, or people who share a big carry a big secret. So I hope that people feel that it's about our humanity and our strength to overcome and survival, and daring to be yourself and show yourself. It's about being bold too. So there's a lot to see, I think.
And Kevin, for yourself, what would you like audiences to come away with after seeing Strike a Pose?
First and foremost, hope. Life continues, life goes on, life has challenges, and it's all about how we respond to them. We're not defined by anything but ourselves. I hope people begin to see that everyone that they see on camera and stars, and they're real people. We are real people. We're not just bodies on a stage, and we have our own stories. There's a lot of amazing artists in the dance community, but because we do our art primarily with our bodies, we're often seen as shapes and background, and we're not able to really share our stories fully. So I hope that people take away sort of complexity of humanity, and that the people they see are all real people, and there's always more stories to be told.
Kevin, I'm gonna put you on the spot, but there's one scene in the film, in the documentary Strike a Pose, the dinner scene. It's been a few years now since you guys filmed that, since the film originally came out in 2016. If you can sum up that particular scene for me, what would you say about that one particular scene?
Healing. It was a healing moment. I always believe that the people in our lives that have been around us the longest, besides our family, our chosen family, especially in the LGBTQ community, we as people our history and our youth and our past live in the hearts and minds and memories of others. And that dinner was exceptionally important and healing for us because we got to be in the room with each other again. And it was like we had never aged a minute, but also had a lifetime of wisdom behind us. Because we all live in each other's memories, collective memories, and no one else but us has the memories that we have. There was nobody that can say they experienced that or even had a window into it, because there was no social media, email, phones, nothing. It was just us in a capsule in a little, fishbowl. So to see everyone where we see ourselves in everyone else's memories and views of us, but we also know how far we've come and how far we've grown and everything that's happened to us in between. It was like looking at the past and the present and the future all in the same moment. It was wow. this incredibly encompassing moment, like a bookend to a life. Like it felt like a resolution to something we didn't know was unresolved.
Yeah. Well said. And Rayer, for yourself, having orchestrated that scene, what would you say? How did that scene play for you?
I think it was such a beautiful thing to witness because the 6 dancers that were there hadn't seen each other for almost 25 years, but the connection between them was so exceptionally strong. And I think it was also very special to see that Gabriel, who had passed away so many years before, but he was also very present among the 6 of them because he was such a part of what that experience was back then. And there was so much love at that table that really the sense of hope that Kevin just mentioned that I think Strike a Pose breathes was really happening right at that table because they shared their past and present, and it had been such a long time. So I think it was a very special moment. And Esther and we weren't, of course, part of that history, but it was very special to be there with them.
Well said. I have literally a minute. Kevin, are you okay?
Yeah. Sorry.
It's okay. I have to say thank you both for your time. This is going to end.
Sure.
Unfortunately,
I really miss Gabriel, and I wish he was here to experience all of this and to have been a part of that. I mean, he's in our hearts, but it would have been really nice to let him experience all this as well.
Thank you both for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I had a message on my answering machine. Hi, I'm trying to reach Carlton. This is Madonna. And I was like, what the fuck? That tour is about freedom. Freedom as a human being, freedom in regards to speak the truth.
I'd still vaguely fit into it.
It was a wild, high-velocity family.
Each one of us would have taken a bullet for each one of us.
This sort of daring progressive message was that you can be gay and human.
I want to be like those guys. Be that sort of free and open.
I saw 2 men kiss for the first time.
Like,
Can we care what people think of us? No!
Bring it back down. What's your secret?
Faking that you're strong, faking that you are confident. Faking almost all of it.
With AIDS coming out and HIV, everyone got really scared. It was terrifying. It was terrifying enough to scare people into silence.
there was a whole other backstage, you know, that you didn't get to see, that none of us were ready to talk about.
And it's hard because this is the first time, so...
And real slow.
Be proud. You know, be proud, whatever it is. Because everyone is someone.
That was my 2021 interview for Strike a Pose with co-director Rear Zwan and dancer and choreographer Kevin Stay. You can watch 2016's Strike a Pose for free on TubiTV.com. And for even more on dancer and choreographer Kevin Stay, check out his website, kevinstay.com.
The phone rings. I got a message from the mayor. He's going to call me back the next day. I get the call, and he said, if you'd accept, we'd like to honor you with the key to the city. There was an event later that year in May. Just a key, right? Like, key to what? A decent job, a good singing career. It's really a metaphor, but it's history. So a reporter wants to talk to me and says, so it's a key, right? Like, what's the big deal? I said, well, not everybody gets the key. So I looked it up, and I guess it is kind of a big deal.
The date, May 17th, 2018, when trans activist Susan Gapka made history by becoming the first trans woman to be presented with the key to the city of Toronto. By the way, past recipients include Rush and the Raptors. And just like that, this little gay journey through Rainbow Country has come to an end. For the full 2-hour episode, simply head over to marktara.com, where everything is connected, and hit the archives banner. To keep up to date with the show, check out my socials at Mark Tara. The podcast is available on all major platforms. And finally, I want to take this time to thank you for taking your time to be with me. Remember, we are living in days of making dreams come true, so believe in yourself. And the world will believe in you.
Hi, this is Mo Berg from The Pursuit of Happiness, and you're listening to Rainbow Country with Mark Tara.